welcome.
No, I'm saying.
Now
You're
it's start
saturated.
So Jack needs to push a button.
I have the final.
I don't know, give me 3, 2, 1. Do something dramatic.
I think it's
I'm falling asleep here.
looking good. How about you?
Is this a bike race? Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone out there in YouTube land, all around the world. We are broadcasting from beautiful downtown Poprad, Slovakia, where, in fact, if you want, you could show people around. We are on day 3. This is Wednesday, August 2nd. Bitcoin price has gone down a little bit overnight, as I sort of had luckily predicted, and Ether is up, which means that the Pillar project is now worth a lot more than it was 2 days ago. So we have about, I don't know, 30 people here talking about design. We have a separate session right now talking about smart contract frameworks and development, so that's happening at the same time, so that's why we don't have a full room today. Here we want to talk about design. Now, I've been talking for the yesterday mostly about how we will work, and there's quite a bit of that, but I want to summarize by saying that we will work almost exclusively in one room in London, and in Rio we'll have 2 offices, and so we want lots of close contact, collaboration, a family supportive atmosphere and culture. We'll have full-time people, and then we'll have a couple of specialists. And now when we talk about design, we may start bending some of these rules or seeing how that will fit in. But the overall Agile framework we want to work in, and it isn't going to happen in the first week, but is to deliver a wallet a week. We want to ship a wallet every week. Steve Jobs used to tell us when I worked at Pixar, real artists ship. And it's about shipping. It is not about getting it right. It's gonna be awful at the beginning, but we won't release it, but we're going to ship a wallet every week. At some point we'll get in rhythm. So that will inform the design, because the design will also ship every week, and it will probably change it by small degrees every week. So this is a very kind of, I won't call it high stress because I don't want it to be, but every Monday we're going to set a new goal, and it's going to be achievable because we'll learn to exercise these muscles of how we project what we can do in a week, and every Friday we will deliver that, and it will incrementally get better and better. There may even be overlapping projects that could wholesale replace what we have, and then 3 iterations later we'll just take over. That could easily happen with design. So to give a design overview, so the first thing we want, so we do not want to plan a lot. We are not here to write a bunch of features down and then kind of pick what features are the minimum viable product and then start designing our minimum viable product. We are not doing that. Okay? We want to do 2 things in parallel. We want to prototype and get fake product in front of people and see how they interact with it, or interactive prototypes. There's kind of a spectrum. And we want to keep developing and shipping wallets for our internal delivery cadence that we can test internally and then in our online community that Ralph is going to tell us all about soon, so that we'll have groups of people who are various beta testing groups. And you can imagine, for example, beta testers who will take wallet 0.1, 0.4, 0.7, and take every third, and then others will take 0.2, 0.5, 0.9. So we want to stagger it in 3 groups of volunteers who will test our wallets, because there's no way people are going to test the wallet every week, and it'll bore them to death anyway.
Check your mic just to see that the gain is not too high.
You check my mic, darling. I'm just so excited about this.
Yeah,
Okay.
Imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, it's boosted.
Yes, I feel boosted.
Can you put it back?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so test. I'm testing. I'm always testing. So So the idea is that we deliver every week, but we don't test with the same people every week. That would kill them. So we'll have different test groups that can give us feedback, and we know that the Pillar community is good at feedback, especially when we screw up. So we'll be testing sort of like, imagine testing 0. If we could do this in 10 weeks, right? 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. 10 weeks later, we have 1.0. Is it ready to ship to the world? Well, maybe not, but it's maybe ready to ship to enough people to we're getting into a real beta. So kind of alpha testing internally, then more of a beta test at maybe 1.0. We may go 10 more weeks. I don't know dates. I'm not saying anything specific because we're not in a 1-week delivery cadence. It may take us a couple months to get into a 1-week cadence. But then we could go 10 more weeks and we'll be at version 2.0. And that could easily be something we want to get more wide and people could maybe even start to use, or it'll be in a test net or something. I've said the word test net, so be careful. So how are we going to do this? Well, I can tell you the way we're not going to do it for starters. We're not going to go interview a bunch of hotshot design firms that already have done wallets and interactive design and frog design and IDEO and all these guys and go into their program of Agile design methods, design thinking. We're not going to do that. We know about design thinking and we're going to embody it, and we're going to do it by taking advantage of people around the world, collaborating with people around the world who interviewed at IDEO, they interviewed at Frog Design, they interviewed at Google, and they didn't get the job. So we're going to be giving people a chance to show what they can do. We're not interviewing anyone. We're not asking any questions. We're just going to see who does things. And these people might not be the best designers in the world. And that's okay. Because what we want is commitment to listening. So, and then I can't remember his name, Rodrigo something at IDEO says, prototype as if you are right with conviction, and then listen as if you are wrong to make changes to the thing you just built with so much conviction. And we don't need the world's best designers to do that. We can do that with stick-to-itiveness and gumption and learning from best practices and from everything else we can scrounge up. So I would be happy with a group of people just in a room, like putting up pictures and studying and having a map of what's going on and just having lots of ideas, just kind of foaming all the time. And then over time, just kind of incorporating those things and turning them into experiments. Because we don't need experts to design our wallet. We need experimental genetic evolution to design our wallet, right? And eventually, since your whole world will be on your wallet, I don't have a phone as a prop, but since the whole world will be in your, that's a huge thing. My God, cut a birthday cake with that. You're going to have everything in the world accessible here, and nothing will be stored here except your private keys, and we'll have smart ways of dealing with that. Then you'll probably use your voice, right? You'll probably use some kind of agent and AI to talk to it and to say, I'd like to rent a bike and ride around for a while. What have you got for me? And sort of like 3 generations above Siri, it's going to say, oh, I know about the kind of things you're looking for and you've done in the past, and I can see your personal preferences, and I know everything about you. And so here's some good examples. And you can refine that, you can nail it, you could start again. And it's very likely to be very heavily voice-driven. But not now, not to begin with. Right now we're forgetting about voice because we have to ship this. We have to ship the 0.1 wallet that just has the bones, the seed of our eventual system. Yeah, so I've tried to come up with the minimum number, and I think it's 10. Is it 10? 9? 9, 10? Am I counting wrong? Yeah, it's 10 things that this wallet will have to do, and it won't do anything more than that. So we've decided to have a contest. Now, why did I decide to have a contest? Because some people have been critical about that. Some guy sent an email saying, oh, you guys have no idea what you're doing. You're having a contest to design your product. I'm out of here. I'm selling. I'm on voting with my feet at Ether Delta and selling my tokens. I'm done. So that's great, right? Because that person is not somebody who we want to own the tokens. Whoever bought those tokens, we hope, will be a supporter of our methodology. We don't have a contest culture. A contest was a way to get something started so that people are working right now while we're getting ready for Poprad and for Slovakia and setting up our office and everything. I didn't want to wait to have a big design-in conference in October that would kick that off. I kicked it off with a contest to offer about $10,000 worth. That's up today. It's probably about $12,000 worth of Ether for our people to come up with not the product and not to design this, but to sketch it, to come up with ideas, show a range of ideas, show your creativity, show explore the design space, then test it a bit. There's 30% for the design, sketching, not to deliver anything final, 20% for testing it and getting some feedback, because you want to always incorporate that in your methodology, and 50% for your thinking about the interaction model, about how people can work together, how it will evolve, and your sort of philosophy. And I'm looking for that for everybody, especially the people who interviewed at Google and didn't get the job, right? Or the people who've had difficulty, or the people who really are passionate about these things, but no one, for whatever reason, has, they haven't made it to the elite, status just because, it didn't happen. That's great. That means design schools. That means loaners. That means small design firms. Not the big agencies who say, we never do contests. We'll never do another contest. That's a disaster. Not those guys, but anyone who wants to collaborate. Now, this is going to be, you can probably tell that the design and the front end coding are going to be very tightly coupled, right? So at 39 Signals, they actually don't do any sketching. They do all their design in code. Their designers sit down next to their coders and they write code, and it shows something on the screen, how it's going to function. And they never sketch. They never do Photoshop or Illustrator to mock it up. They only do code. Now, I don't believe that that's the only way to go, although I applaud them for doing it in their particular domain. That's fine. That's not, I think you can sketch pretty quickly. And also, we're going to have two important tracks. One is this prototyping, get dummy stuff out in front of real people, and don't do focus groups, but try to get it in front of real people. And the track of developing the real stuff that's going to ship concurrently on top of what the back-end guys are doing every week. And realize that almost all that's all going to go away, right? Almost everything we do in the next 6, 9, 10 months will go away. And come back in a year from now, and I think we'll have some bones down that will probably last for a while. And then on top of that, we can start adding the AI and the, and the voice, so that we're kind of always getting ahead of ourselves, right? In a way that just lets us keep experimenting and not setting up frameworks that last that long. Now, one thing you don't want to do is start releasing stuff that confuses people. So you release a 1.0 and people start using it, and then 2.0 is radically different. In fact, Adobe overhauled their interface for Photoshop about 10 years ago, and that's the last time I used Photoshop. I've tried since, but I don't have the feel anymore, and it would take me too long to but that don't want, so I don't want legacy interaction models to drag us back, and I don't want us to cause confusion from version 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. And yet, we don't know what version 4.0 will look like at all, and we can't get there unless we go through 1 and 2 and 3, right? So you can imagine that we're just going to go very gradually into the consumer space, and when we talk about it's good for my 7-year-old, it's good for my 70-year-old mom or grandmother, it's not going to be the 1.0. It's going to evolve that way from what we can imagine right now is a fairly standard, I hope, better than Jack's, although Jack's is very good, wallet that people can use. So we have to start talking about our audiences, right? And who's going to be using them. And I don't believe, and this is actually our conversation, right? This is why we're here, because I don't have answers here. I have questions, right? Who's our first audience? When we start designing this, is it for the 7 and 70-year-olds, or is it for people who already have crypto assets, who have a wallet already, and here is a better one. Now, you have to do that, you have to study some wallets, and you have to start writing down, and this is part of a real exercise, what's good about them, what's bad about them. You have to actually use them to see what their problems are. Some of them are not wallets, some of them are front ends for exchanges, and that's different, because a wallet is a product and an exchange is a service, right? So when you say, oh, my something wallet is so slow, well, you're really talking about the exchange doing the work there. And it's very different from a Jack's wallet, which is just hooked up to the blockchain. So these are very different. And so you got to be sure you're comparing apples to apples when you're, and our first product won't have an exchange, and there's no exchange here, and I'll be surprised if we have an exchange for a while. That's okay. We're just trying to get something that works. So what you can do with this wallet, you can set it up, you can transfer Ether in, you can transfer Ether out. That's it. Okay, there's some other overhead there, but that's essentially all you can actually do with it. And the next thing will be, you can transfer some Bitcoin in, you can transfer some Bitcoin out, and that's it. And the next thing will be, you can maybe get some other coins, and then you'll get some tokens. And they'll go in and out, and there won't be any exchange for a while. Okay? Then over time, and I'm sure I can't imagine it's possibly this year. I would expect it sometime in Q2 or Q3 next year. We're starting to mess around with exchanges and because we could hook up mass, huh? No, because my mother-in-law, my stepmother, actually got an account on Coinbase, even though it was a huge disaster. But no, because no, that's not fair. Because they may be very adept at compute. They just don't know anything about crypto. I'm trying to designate. We're
talking about the financial side. I mean, personal data locker concept is for the 99%.
So let's say that's for spending. Let's say.
The security seekers.
I have a hard time believing people will go to our wallet just for security alone, because it's going to give them security in addition to whatever they want to do, right? So, the one scenario here is people who are okay. So one of them is the data liberationists, the few people who really care. That's a group, okay? So what are they called? The people who are willing to manage their own data. The data, yeah, the data democracy people, the people who want to manage their own data.
Data sovereignty, freedom,
Privacy.
And there's also privacy. So there's the data managers. I don't know, personal data managers. They want to. This is. And there's seekers for access. They want their passport. They'd be happy to. They'd be happy to have their hotel room, their hotel key, their Facebook account. The
independent seekers.
Well, I think what these people aren't that aware right now that there's a better way to do what they do all day. They have one password. Think of it like that, right? They're kind of actively doing password. Well, they're well enough aware to know that one password does it for them.
But password managers,
So they're using password managers. I think that's in market, right? Already using password managers. Okay, so these are two pretty interesting markets because we can say to these people, there's a better way than what you're doing now, right? So these people here have credit cards, for starters, because they're just convenient, right? So you can say it's almost required if you're going to be here to have a credit card. That's a lot of people, but anybody who says, I just use cash for convenience or something, that's not the person we're looking for. So people who have credit cards, right? So these are different. And these are good. These are huge, right? And what would you say about, who would you call the grandmas who are the low volume users but could see tremendous benefit because the wallet will do so much for them automatically? Who would those low volume people be?
Well, what if the wallet served as an enabling tool? And they're going to want safety, they're going to want security, they're going to want convenience. But for a grandma, what if it suddenly made it practical for them to use it without becoming sophisticated?
Yeah, I'm asking,
I mean, that's what drawn my grandmother, is if I said, hey, grandma, it protects all your passwords, she'd say, so what? If I said
right.
It was this, that, but if I said, look, you got this, suddenly it all works.
Okay, but what? Let's be specific, because if you said to your grandma, hey, all your spending throughout the day, it's just going to handle that, she could say, so what?
Well, if I said to my grandma, well, you install this thing and suddenly your money is automatically secure, your passwords automatically work, and you can just buy stuff online, that combination of functions suddenly makes it possible for my grandmother to use it. Because literally my grandmother won't use it because she's got to deal with passwords, she's got to deal with figuring out payments, she's scared to death she's going to get ripped off.
Sure,
this
sure.
package of fixes, either you fix all three of them or you fix none of them.
We're assuming these people have to be savvy with the internet. So the iPad.
So
The older people with iPads who are using the iPad, they never had a laptop, but they've been drawn into the laptop because it's a package of convenience for them, and it's a good way for them to Skype and to communicate with the rest of the family.
it's a pretty tough sell to sell someone, this is going to eliminate all your accounts and you'll just have one, it'll just log you in everywhere, it's just going to take care of it. They're going to say, well, I just do Skype and Amazon, so for my grandchildren.
My grandmother, I wouldn't sell her on all that. I'd just say, let me install this on your computer, and hey, look, everything works.
Yes, I mean, on that note, I mean, taking a step back, surely, the community are your customers, are your market. You've got this huge, great, big vision that, you've got a load of evangelical people here who I'm sure are going to go home and tell some of their friends, and their friends might pick it up and believe in it as well. I mean, you're working towards, say, Pillar potentially being a noun, like the way you might Facebook someone or Google something. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So, in terms of how we decide how to reach our customers and do this, surely that kind of grassroots word of mouth marketing, let people explain it to their local network in the way that they want to do, because their local network are going to be people just like them who care about the things that they're specifically trying to say, this is what it does, even though it's capable of a lot more than that. It's the easiest thing for them to latch onto. So yeah, we don't sell it to grandma, we just say, it's going to make your life easier.
Now, what if it was like a normal part of activating your cell phone? The person in the store would say, okay, your battery's working, now we turn on your pillar, and there you go, have a nice day.
So I think I was confusing frequency, so I'm now breaking it out, right? So because these are axes, we can help to start plot these things on. So within all these different functions that we're looking for, we have these two axes that we can put people on, and that will help. So now this is types. This is types of people, types. So what else do we have for types of people? This is kind of a little bit around their activities. And what we want, the two areas we see here are financial and account users, that are non-financial account.
Yeah.
These are two different things, right? Again.
Can we call them the baby boomers?
No,
The old ones?
no, we can't, because there's plenty of baby boomers in here who know what the hell they're doing, so. So let me see if I can, I'm going to put it here for my, okay. So let me see if I can kind of wrap this up by saying we have this kind of main split between financial and, can I use the word functional? It's non-financial. What's a way to say non-financial? No. People, this is what you do. You use Facebook, you use LinkedIn, maybe you're using Amazon has financial, but that's not why you're using Amazon. You're shopping. That's not paying for everything as you go necessarily. Access? Can I say access?
If we draw an axis with, say, pillar at the center, what it actually is, and then, say, have the opposing views. So, say, security might be opposed to convenience on one axis. On another axis, we've got...
Well, we hope we're not.
Yeah, another trade-off.
Our goal is, yeah.
Market all fit within different points of this, and we can draw a map around.
Try that, will you, when you have a chance, and see if you can. Okay, I would just want to try to do it this way. I will say financial access, and then I just want to put frequency. And then I want to have experience. And so this matrix so we're going to have a spectrum of frequency, a spectrum of experience, spectrum of frequency, spectrum of experience may give us a bit of a map of the people that we are looking. Now then we will map people onto various quadrants that this represents, right? So this isn't a tool yet, but it could become a tool. So then we can say, baby boomers with iPads or something, or not, then they'll map onto this quadrant. But some of them will be in different. It's a slider inside here, right? So let's think about how we could turn this into a tool.
I was going to say, can I try drawing one as well?
Yes, we have a few minutes, and you can. So please, yes. Don't use that pen. Use a Sharpie is the best, really. Here.
David, maybe that could be used as a tool in the sense that we can tie our messages to the people in those quadrants, I guess.
Oh, big time. Because they're hanging out in different places. Their activities are different. We're going to find them and message them differently. Yeah, that's why we're doing this.
What if, perhaps the axis could be something different, but in terms of having pillar wallets,
Here?
the browser, exchanges, multi-currencies, all these things.
Please stay close to it. Can you bring that up here?
In terms of what our potential customers value, it can lie anywhere within this spectrum. So say someone in the financial world, they might value security more because they've got a lot of money on this. And depending on what they do in the finance world, they might want it to be it's more important that it's multifunctional and it connects to lots of exchanges, there's lots of currencies and that kind of thing, as opposed to grandma who's terrified that she's going to lose everything if she puts it online, and really she doesn't care that it can do all this stuff on exchanges and stuff. She just wants to know that she can spend her money the way she usually does. So, you know, grandma might be here, sophisticated trader might be over here. Down here in terms of specific use and convenient, I don't know, what other type of people might be interested in that respect?
Right. So you brought up a very interesting point, which is that all present wallets are all identical, right? Or are there actually?
I know that one company is working on a millennial wallet, which is for ease of use and messaging for millennials. We'll see how that goes.
Well, my point is there might need to be a couple different flavors of the Pillar wallet
Oh, yeah.
in order to cover the different
There might.
audiences.
Yeah.
There might.
So
There might.
rather than, you know, and that might, so we might want to allow the conversation to branch a little bit and say, these groups might have priority on these kind of things. These groups might have priority on these kind of things. However, there are some fundamentals that all Pillar wallets will meet. For example, they're all
Right.
going to be secure.
It could also be an adaptive interface,
Yeah.
so that it starts with something, but it goes in your direction and modifies itself, or you can start to discover new features for you. It could all be in the system, but you'll discover the weighting of the features you want. For example, in the afternoon, you may trade hats and be a trader or something, and then you might, you know, switch configurations of the same wallet. You wouldn't have to go to another wallet.
More tailored the experience.
Yeah, sure. And this, trust me, this gets hard. This is, you know, when you say this to the engineers, they go, "Yeah, I've heard that before. That never happens." Right? Yeah, but it's always the best of intentions to have kind of an adaptive evolutionary interface that can kind of learn what you're doing and modify itself and give you more options that are appropriate for you. And trust me, when the rubber meets the road, most of that goes out the window. So we would love it, and we'll, you know, we've got some resources, so we're going to see how that goes. But it's a really good intention.
Can anyone remember when the internet was very new and you went on there to play a game, a kid's game, and you had so little choices, but you almost built your own avatar and you built your own character. So you bought into a game, but you had a selected choice based on your decision making, and then you created your own little world. Could we not do that with Pillar? In other words,
Okay, so let me talk about customization versus personalization for a second. Okay, so customization is configuring the functionality to the way you want it, and personalization is making it look and feel the way that you want it. So you have your home page and you can decorate it however you like. You can have cat pictures or daisies or whatever. That's personalization, making it yours. But customization is the functionality. So we want to make sure and separate those two things, because personalization is fairly easy.
exactly. And what I would say with a lot of, you know, if you're looking at a mass market audience, people just want to feel comfortable with the interface. That's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah.
really, most people just want it to work and not let them down. So I think there might be some learnings in the early stages of when the internet was really new, and how people then, you know, obviously it's become far more sophisticated.
Yogesh, can you make sure those people are coming? I want everybody to come back now. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
it's just an interesting thing, because I'm reminded, and actually if you look at these games now, people say, well, that's ridiculous because we're now, you know, we're much more sophisticated than that. But you still felt as though, it's a bit like the cake analogy. You know, you can get cake mix and you have to add an egg because it's your cake.
Yeah, they show that makes you feel like you made the cake. Who made the cake? I made the cake.
And in the same way, perhaps with Pillar, we have this opportunity to personalise it in such a way because we want it to be very consumer friendly.
Right, right.
People have the interface is really very.
So it's a question of how social is our wallet? I just had a conversation last night with Kik, and they wanted to meet me and just get to know a bit, and they hadn't really looked at our website or anything, so they just wanted to hear the overview from me. But the next step with them is to talk to their product managers and see how our tokens might work together, how we might, because they're all about messaging and connecting people. And our first goal here is not connecting people. Otherwise, we're just trying to boil the ocean, and what we're doing now is hard enough. But we have an important principle in what we're doing, that there's only one single source of truth. So that when you put your phone number and your address, it's only ever referred to by any system that uses it in the pillar system, and it's never copied. So that when you change your phone number or your address, it automatically changes everywhere, and that is a requirement of being in the pillar system, right? It never goes somewhere and then stays. It's always got to be tethered back to refer back to the original source. And that's also true with your avatar, right? Thing is that we have different personalities. So at work, I might be one avatar, or when I'm, whenever I'm shopping for kid stuff on Amazon, and I buy some kid, I buy diapers or whatever, and then I'd go be shopping for, my multi-tools and my sports gear, and I would see the ads for diapers, right? And so people are complex, and they have different personalities. So something else we have to try to think of is, who are you, and how are you represented to your social graph? Because you're going to have different social graphs depending on who you are. So okay. Now we're getting closer and closer to waterfall, and just putting too many specs in that will never ship, and overloading the design. But we may say, all right, well, let's try two different wallets for a while and let people have and see how that goes, because that may be a better way for them to cognitively separate. Or you could also have a meta function, and first thing you do is you choose your wallet, you go in there and you do your stuff. If you're done with that, you can back up and go be your other self.
I mean, the question I'd like to ask is, how many of us think that people will just have one pillar wallet, or do we think they'll have maybe 3 wallets in different situations?
We don't know. We can't make it too complicated, but we know that people are complicated.
Yeah, but all you need to worry about is the interface, isn't it? Because people...
I guarantee I'll have at least 3. I'll
Yes.
have my business
Yes.
pillar, my
Yeah.
personal pillar,
Yeah.
my anonymous pillar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's for starters. So there's...
Yeah, I think that's a good point. One thing to think about, if we're going this route of different flavors, I think is to have the generic wallet, have that point of differentiation be further down the road, because that's going to save a lot of duplication of work. And then you're also closer to your customer as far as feedback, so you tighten that.
Don't split wallets too soon.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, we're not trying to make our lives more difficult here. We're just trying to brainstorm a bit on how the markets and you're not going to solve everybody's problems. So what we're trying to get to here is a tool that will give us a quadrant or a population or a group that we can further quantify and dive into and understand their needs and interact with and prototype with and all that. And more or less forget about everybody else, because we don't have $200 million. So we have to focus on something to start with. You're saying something else?
No, that was more just about the process and being able to be more efficient when we don't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
By extending that point of differentiation. Maybe
Yeah, so...
something that we probably start out with is, I think...
No, you're talking about core features and get the core wallet working.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Have that base.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
as you identify these different
Yeah.
these different types or market segments that you want to target, you have as much in the core or base generic wallet before you have to differentiate.
So there's a bit of a conversation here, just 1 second, about building the core wallet functionality. And if you go to techstars.tv and listen to all the founders of all the Techstars companies, which is pretty interesting, you could stay there for a few days and learn a lot. They all say the same thing: focus, 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 focus on your market, right? So we could focus on a core market and ship that, and then eventually branch to other markets, or we could focus on core product and try to get people to use that. And it's not easy. I'm going to let Rugi.
One of the things I was thinking that we can do, once we've identified, we're comfortable with these kind of avatars, or segments that, that we're pursuing, whether it's grandmas or privacy people. people. Like we could use like the social media route and like identify social media influencers, say who has a lot of grandmas that watch your show, even if it's like baking or something, and then do something with them and have a survey. So like we asked someone who's their whole audience is grandmas, like explain what it is, and then see what they say to each of these groups, and just branch out to people that maybe have nothing to do with cryptocurrencies, and see if we can find someone who's interested in exploring it, and then we get real data from these people that we don't know, and then they tell us.
Survey data is not real data, but we can get behavioral data. But we're going to have to focus on something, right? And this is the conversation. What are we going to focus on? And there's kind of two philosophies here. One is focus on core product, which we can all see is pretty obvious, and the other is focus on core customers, an initial customer group and their needs.
I'm wondering, our 12,000 members of this community, where do they fit here?
Yeah, well, we're trying to build a mapping tool that helps us see who's where.
That would be a first step where to focus.
Well,
if you can go, maybe they're not representative.
They're not representative of people who've never bought anything, that's for sure, because they already bought our tokens, which is they're 3 steps ahead of everybody else.
Definitely, but it could be a good entry point from where you can grow.
It could be.
Yeah, like as a pillar customer, one of the biggest problems I have, as much as I love us, is dealing with all the damn tokens and the wallets.
Yeah, the mechanics.
Now, if
Yeah.
you could put out a wallet that made it easy for me to gather, see, and transfer tokens to somebody else, that right there could be a runaway hit. Figure out what to do next.
That's core product. And if you could do what Jack's wallet does, you'd have a couple million people.
Yeah.
And if you could add tokens to Jack's wallet, you'd be behind them because they'll get tokens to market before we will, but you'd have millions of people.
So, David, going back to the Techstars point about all these founders and these companies all having a very similar message to share, out of curiosity, how many of them were decentralized nonprofits?
I'm not sure it matters because your customers don't care.
Don't matter, but
I mean, Jack's wallet is open source and kind of has no business model, but they recently added Shapeshift, so that gives them a bit of, but what do I care? I don't care.
I mean, in terms of how we reach our audience, what we prioritize, I mean,
Well, but you win customers one by one. So either you give that customer what they want and they go, yeah. Use that, or they don't. So you got to pick somebody and deliver to them.
And that's why we're doing this. This is, first build the Jax wallet, and probably second is, add some cryptocurrencies, so it's more like, and then the next thing is tokens, and make it super easy. And we will have a different take on it than the Jax wallet, but we're kind of following in their footsteps. And this conversation is, now to what extent should understanding our users inform our decisions? So we can make the hard decisions later and say, keep in mind, everyone, the customer map says we already decided we're going for, beginner grandmas, whatever, or we're going for the Jax people or whatever. Then we can just use that to keep focus, which is a good idea. And we can use that to you don't want to get in feedback from the wrong people in the wrong group. Then you're just going to get, a mismatch, right? And you'll just get all negative feedback. So you want to know which group you're getting feedback from.
So just to say, from the Joy Inc. book, the main thing I took out of that was that the projects that succeed is when they insist on the client pinning the project to a target audience, and they don't let the client squirm or change or get away from it.
Right.
Now, obviously, this is not a website, but it's similar in terms of concept. And so
It's a product.
They
Yeah.
boiled it down to it being Jean Smith, who was the grandmother who wanted.
Yeah, they use personas.
The personas.
Sure.
And I think we need to define the potential personas.
Well, that's what the conversation is about.
Pick somebody, even if you're wrong and it's not the optimal person to pick somebody and go after them.
And then the other thing I think would be great is if there's a way we could research the market opportunity in cash terms. Because then that's another layer. So
I'm interested in size a lot. I'm very interested in size because I'd like to have big numbers, and I don't care about how profitable they are. Not for a long time.
On YouTube, who was joining us on Friday.
Oh, by the way, are we on YouTube now?
Yeah.
It's Diego Rodriguez at IDO. I just want to correct the name because I said the name wrong.
All right, so Mike B says, make the wallet modular so components can be added and removed
Yeah.
as needed during
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yes. In fact, we have a container expert who's going to help us do that. Mike B, where are you? Hey, Mike B, are you listening to me? Get over here. We're not far from you.
Hello, Mike B.
Come on. Don't wait till Friday. Okay, I have a surprise announcement, and I will. Are we still streaming? I think we should wrap up the stream, and then we'll do our surprise announcement and keep everybody waiting on that. So let's wrap it up, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your help.